Hey guys, ModzLink here bringing you another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a charge port on a Nintendo 2DS. Now to do this, everything that you need is right here. Obviously you're going to need your console, you're going to need your replacement part, you're going to need a small electronics screwdriver set. Specifically, the only bit that you need is a 000 right here. This is the only bit that you need to disassemble a 2DS. You will also need a pair of needle nose tweezers. This is optional. Flux. You will also need desoldering braid or desoldering wick. This is what I use, good wick. You'll also need some solder. This is what I use, rosin core. This is also optional. This is Kapton tape, which you may need if you have a heat gun instead of an actual hot air rework station. This will protect your motherboard from getting fried. To remove the old part, you're going to need either a hot air rework station like this or a heat gun. And then to resolder the new part, you're going to need a soldering iron. Now, I'll have links in the description for all these items that you need. That way you can get right to work in fixing your Nintendo 2DS. So let's go ahead and get started here. Alright, so first off you'll need your 2DS. Set everything aside, this is the only thing you'll need for now. And your screwdriver that's a 000 size. Don't try to use any other size because you may end up stripping the screws here, and that's gonna be really hard for you to fix in the future if you ever want to, or take this apart if you ever need to. So there's gonna be 6 screws here, 2 up here on the top and 4 down here on the bottom, 2 on each corner. Just take those out. Alright, so there you go. There's the 4 at the bottom that actually do come out. And then the 2 on top will remain in place. There's a little tab here at the top where you can insert your fingernail. And then this will come off. First off, take out the battery and set that aside. Now here on the casing you will have a few more screws to remove. It looks like there's 2 right here on this corner, 2 on this corner, and 2 more right here at the bottom. So go ahead and remove those casing screws. Now after you've removed all those screws, you should have 10 total screws outside the case plus the additional 2 here. After you have done that, you should be able to remove the plastic casing by just lifting it from the top down. Be very careful though, as there is a ribbon cable, so you'll want to lift it to the side like so. And there, as you can tell, there's a small ribbon cable. You can use your fingernail or a small screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, to lift this up. Let me show you this so you guys don't break your console. Now, this is all backwards, but right there, this little black tab swings up and down. You just need to lift it up and that ribbon will release. So after you've got that, set that aside. And now we need to take out the shoulder buttons here. They're pretty much already coming out. So the sides will basically just come off. Get the sides off, and then get the shoulder buttons out as well. Be very careful with these because they do have a little spring there, and you don't want to lose that spring. Now once you're at this point, let me zoom in here. Once you're at this point, we need to remove the motherboard from the rest of the casing. So we'll need to remove all the motherboard screws. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So 14 total screws. They're a lime green color. Alright, so there we go. All the screws have been removed. Here's all the screws. Make sure you don't lose any of these. Set those aside. And now, before you remove the motherboard, you need to make sure that you get all the ribbons disconnected. Now, it looks like there's 2 down here at the bottom corner. To release these, you just lift them. Lift them like so. And then you should be able to just pull these ribbons out. You may want to use tweezers for that, but it's not really required if you have small fingers. Alright, so after you've removed those 2 ribbons there, there's another one here, which you do the exact same thing. Just lift up that little plastic tab and then remove that ribbon there. There's also these 2 larger ones which you can use your fingernail to unlatch. And there's also this one here which controls the stick. So disconnect that one just the same. And now we should be able to lift this up. Very carefully lift up the motherboard from the bottom up. Now once you reach this point, you should be able to remove this at the top and the whole motherboard should lift. Now at this point you can go ahead and set this aside, and everything we need should be right here. So the charging port is actually right here at the top, so we need to get that removed. There's the 4 solder joints that are actually holding this in place, and then there's the 2 actual pins on the back here. So you'll definitely need a heat gun or a hot air rework station to be able to take this off. Let me go and grab mine. Optionally, if you use a heat gun where you can't regulate the temperature, you'll want to use something like this. This is called Kapton tape, and what it does is it basically reflects the heat. So you'll want to cut some of this and just put it around sensitive areas around this port that you don't want to damage with heat. So let me just go ahead and set this up really quickly. Alright, so luckily there isn't really that many components around the charge port, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Once you've got that set up, you can use something like this to hold it in place, or if you have a friend that can hold the other end, that'll work just as well. So get this set up like so, and then get your heat gun. Now if you have flux at this point, this will come in handy as well. It's not required, but it does make things a lot easier, especially when you're working with unleaded solder, which is what they use at typical Chinese factories. So get your gun here and just heat this up. And just be ready with your tweezers. When this melts, you should be able to just pry it off, or just lift it off. And there we go. So there's the old charge port. There it is. And now you should be able to just clean this up a little bit with your soldering iron, and then you should be able to put the new port right back in there. So to clean this up, go ahead and grab your soldering iron. To do this, you'll actually want to have some desoldering braid. The best stuff that you can get is probably this, a good wick. Just get your soldering iron and just tap this where the solder joints are. And this should suck out all the old solder, and that way we should be able to use new solder there. This is also where the flux will come in handy, so use plenty of flux if you need to. Sometimes with difficult spots, if you can see right there, the bottom 2 points are just not going anywhere. They're just not getting all that solder out. So if that happens, you might have to add some leaded solder in there and then suck it out. Unleaded solder is very hard to work with. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get out all the solder out of there, but if you've got 3 points like I do here, that should be more than enough. Now, At this point, set this aside and get your replacement part. Now basically all you do is grab this. Let me show you this way. Grab your new part and just set it in place there. Very simple. Now you'll just have to flip it over like this and get these two points soldered right there, and that'll hold the piece in place. Additionally, you can solder one of these parts on this side instead, which may make things easier for some of you. Let me zoom in some more in here so you can see what I'm doing. So grab your solder, grab your iron, and just solder one of these sides on the side. Now once you have a good hold on one side, flip it over and solder this side. Now if it feels like it's going out, just hold it like this and tap this. This is gonna get hot, so you might get burned, but just push it in there. Make sure it's in there securely. Once you've made sure that's in there securely, just solder the rest of the points. And don't forget to get the main positive and negative lead behind this port here. Now that you're done, you should have something that looks something like this. And then if you flip it over, your port should be like new. Now you can actually see those two pins out there. And now we just need to reassemble the console. Go ahead and take off the Kapton tape if you used any. And also if you used flux, make sure to clean that up using a paper towel or Q-tips. Now we'll go ahead and start reassembling. So grab this piece here, and now you'll want to set this little piece in here first. This is your Wi-Fi antenna. You'll also want to make sure your speaker is in place here on this side before you set the motherboard down. You also need to make sure that all the ribbons are not under the motherboard. So once you've made sure of all that, you'll want to grab the top of the console here and set that in place before you put down the motherboard or screw down the motherboard. Now this should just line up with plastic holes down there. That should snap in place. Now remember to make sure to get the sides on there as well. If the volume button falls off remember to realign it with the button here on the side. That way, when you slide the button down, it actually slides down this little lever here on the side. If you don't get this right, then let me zoom in here just to make sure I can explain this properly. This button, this is the button here, and there's this slider. So you need to make sure the button's little notch is set with the bar on that slider. That way, see, when you slide the button down, it slides down with that slider. If you don't get that right, then your volume's not gonna work. After you have set that side, go over to the other side, set that one up. This side is just the same, it just lines up with the plastic holes there on the side. And it should just fall into place like so. Now you'll need the shoulder buttons. These shoulder buttons, remember, they have this spring which needs to go into this area here. So again, you might need some tweezers to be able to do this properly. So there's the shoulder button. And then just make sure this stays in place there. And then get the other shoulder button in there. You want to get the spring in there first, and then once you have the spring set in place, that should be just fine. Now we'll want to screw all the lime green screws back in place. Alright, once you've got all those lime green screws back in place, and let me show you the locations for all of them. So there's 1, 2 right there, 1 over here, and then there's 1 right there, which you can't really see, and there's also 1, 2 right there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 other hidden one back there, and I believe that's all of them. After you've got all those in place, if the sides fall off, that's fine, you can set those back in place later, but go ahead and lift up all these tabs. Let me zoom in here and show you the tabs. So make sure you get all of these. Lift up this little tab here. And once that's lifted, you should be able to just bend this ribbon cable and slide it in place. And then once the ribbon's in all the way, just go ahead and lock it in place there. And make sure you get this other ribbon cable here. And then there's this one right in the middle at the bottom. Now, there's these big ones right in the center. These ones are a little different. There's the black tab here, which swings up and down. So swing it up and then slide this in. And then latch it down. And then do the same with the bigger one. And latch that one down as well. Now the only one that's left should be the one for the thumbstick here. And this one swings, it basically does a little loop right here. So this one might be the most difficult one. So once you get it to loop around like that, should be able to get it in fairly easily. You will definitely need tweezers for this one because there's no way to get your fingers in there. Once that's in place, lock it. Then once again verify that your sides are in properly. Alright, so after you have got all your ribbon cables back in place and the sides back in place, we're gonna put this back in place, but remember there is this ribbon cable here. So turn this around like so. So the brown part of the ribbon cable is facing towards you. Let me zoom in so you guys can see here what I'm talking about. So here on the ribbon, there's a brown part which should face towards you. Go ahead and grab your tweezers here and grab this ribbon cable and just insert it here. And make sure to lock that. If it goes out like that, make sure you actually put it in straight. Make sure the cable is not crooked in any way. And after you've got it, you should be able to just twist this up and over. And just insert that in place like that. Now all you need to do is put the case screws back in. There should be 10 total, 2 on each corner, and then a couple of additional ones right here around the battery. Then just go ahead and grab your battery and put that in place there. And then get the back cover, slide the bottom in first since there's 3 tabs there, and then just screw these 2 top screws in place. And that's it. So now we've got a brand new charging port there, which should work just fine. And then we've got the broken port here. So that's it for my tutorial on how to replace a charging port on a Nintendo 2DS. If you guys found that video helpful, informative, or you just enjoy my videos, please remember to like, comment, favorite, or share. Consider subscribing as well for future tutorials, unboxings, reviews, etc. Once again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.